Well, there we go. I'm looking at the sunshine a little bit now. It's all good.
Is that too difficult? Is that too much for your eyes?
Nah, it's mean. It's all good. I've been doing a bit of sun gazing, so I can look at the sun.
So, Zeb, welcome. Good to have
Welcome.
you here. You were just saying you've been doing a bit of sun gazing. I can see you kind of like looking into the sun right there amongst some southern beech trees. Uh, what's that about, sun gazing?
Yeah. So, um, in winter especially, it's a nice time to trial with sun gazing, and especially being out on the farm, we see the sunrise and the sunset about every day. So it's just far enough in winter that you can look at it directly and connect directly to the source, gather that energy straight from where it all comes from. We're always eating or running or doing something to get energy, but it's all derived from the sun. So staring directly at it, we can receive that energy.
You're literally just you're looking straight into that sun, that star. That's the doesn't that is that dangerous or?
It's dangerous if the sun's high in the sky. It's dangerous if you're trying to go in too hard, too fast. But if you play it smart, if you wait till the sun's just above the horizon, and yeah, that's why it's safer in winter. It's further away from us, so safe on the eyes.
Hmm. Yeah, actually, I think I might have heard about this. Something like a like a half an hour either side of sunset and sunrise.
Yeah, I mean, five
Kind of.
minutes is
It's,
good if you can catch it just before it drops below the horizon. It's quite a beautiful thing. It's an instant state changer for sure. And you can
yeah.
work up
All
to it for
right. Cool.
certainly work up to half an hour if you've been doing it for, a few weeks every day. It's not where I'm at, but the occasional look into the look into the sun. It's happening.
The great sun god Ra. Yeah, I've heard of people, like these breatharians and stuff. They just feed off the like plants, photosynthesize. They just breathe, do yogic breath, in and out of the abdomen, and they say they operate on pure love. You ever had any examples of that? You ever met any of those people?
Yeah, well, I get majority of my spiritual intel from my brother Zach, and he's trained with Breatharian Akai and ran through an 8-day process where they were harnessing energy from the source straight to the heart through the breath and through sun gazing. So yeah, via Zach, I've seen that in action.
Wow, that's intense. So no food. They were drinking water?
With 8-day process, I think they drank water for the first 2 days and the last 3 days, and had a 3-day dry fast in the middle.
Wow. Wow, that's extreme.
Yeah,
I wonder
pretty.
how long that took them to build up to. Um, so hey man, anyway, just wanted to have a little kōrero here. Obviously you look like you're pretty cozy wherever you are. You're living down south, eh? Down in the south of New Zealand.
Yeah, so I'm in the deep south, and just between Gore and Queenstown on our family sheep farm. We've got 1,000 acres here, and it's a pretty beautiful spot. It's all flat. We're in a bit of a valley, and it's nice. Yeah, winter conditions right now. So this is what we get: blue skies and cold mornings.
That's not a bad winter, really. Blue skies. I'm here in Wanaka. We just got inversion layer for the last week and a half. Just the cloud uh, on the ground, essentially, just driving through cloud non-stop. Haven't seen the sun Uh, good for the vampires, but people like myself are starting to feel it. Can't get clothes dry.
Yeah, no
Oh,
good
my
for the photosynthesizers.
Exactly, exactly. Uh, so a sheep farm, 1,000 acres. How many sheep you got?
We've got 4,000 breeding sheep. Yeah, so that number varies depending on what part of the season we're in, how many lambs we're holding, but 4,000 is the core that we keep right through.
Well, that's good. So that's you guys sussed if apocalypse strikes.
Yeah, yeah, just live on a diet of sun rays and lamb. We're pretty sorted. Fortunately,
Yeah.
I've given some thought into such a scenario, and I think we're pretty well sussed indeed.
You got some fresh water going through as well.
We've got fresh water, we've got fresh produce, we've got fresh perspectives.
So this land that you're on, your family farm, have you been part of that ever since a child? You've been working on that land as well?
Yeah, so I live here on the house that we grew up in. Always been on the farm, and it's been my goal or my father's goal, whichever, both to succeed him on the farm. And so I've always been out helping with the lambing run and various tasks from being pretty young. And yeah, pursued that through with a degree in agriculture at Lincoln and a bit of an OE. And yeah, I've been home for 4 or 5 years now.
So so working as a shepherd Zeb.
Shepherd Zeb, that's the role, or
All right. So
bit of a bit of a combination of roles. Shepherding, groundskeeping. I like to use the title of Chief Regenerative Officer.
so tell us a little bit about that idea then, this regenerative idea when it comes to, in particular, farmland.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll explain the title just briefly because it's just a bit of a yarn. Uh, a lot of companies will have a CFO, like a financial officer, or of course a CEO, but it's uncommon to have a chief regenerative officer, and I think that's a position that all businesses should have.
Uh, Getting some good quality Southland sounds going on.
All right, yeah, we're back. You're a bit of a standstill over there.
Oh no, that's just because I'm practicing stillness, Buddhist
Ah,
meditation.
well done.
um,
The way
no,
you can portray your
yeah,
voice.
no, we're here.
Okay, cool. No, we're on. All right, so yeah, that's just a bit of a yarn on businesses having like a chief regenerative officer, someone who's focused on how do their actions help regenerate our land or regenerate our society. And so how that rolls on the farm, uh, yeah, we've been moving our practice from more conventional to a regenerative agricultural outlook, and that's all about building diversity and building biological systems, or at least managing our actions in a way that support those biological systems. And yeah, there's a whole raft of reasons why. Uh, Resilience being sort of foundational. Uh, we can't keep exploiting our soils, exploiting our systems, and being this take. We need to be giving, and to allow it just to continue through generations.
Yeah, of course. And New Zealand being quite an agricultural, a primary sector uh, industry, we have a lot of dairy, of lamb, of wool. So with that, obviously comes a fair amount um, of industrial waste, whether that's in the form of animal uh, excrement or the certain nitrogens and whatnot that get leaked into the soil, which then goes into our waterways, things like this. So you're thinking more long term about whether that's how we move forward, while we recognize that this is an industry that we would like to maintain, uh, how to keep that there without poisoning our own lands.
Yeah, so that's how I'm thinking, and it's how a growing community, a growing movement of farmers and landholders are thinking. It's really just like taking this slow build up of regenerative agriculture being on the fringes to in 2020 and even towards the end of last year. It's a term that everyone knows about, a lot of people are thinking about or considering, and a lot of people are implementing the practices involved. So yeah, it's really promising. And yeah, conventional agriculture uh, is interesting, or regenerative agriculture, to define what's conventional and what's regenerative. I think there's been a lot of focus on making those definitions within the industry lately, and and it's come down to a thing for me that just regenerative agriculture is an ideology about progression, about becoming better, about what you're doing, enhancing life more than what the conventional idea was.
Now, some people might think that that sounds almost fringe hippie. Do we do we have a certain kind of mentality of the farmers in the region that you're in that are still holding to the traditional state of perception, um, or is there you are seeing quite a movement of those that culture moving more towards the long-term regenerative practices?
Yeah, so when I say there's been a wave crash over, it takes a lot for an idea to spread that far. So uh, the fact that my old man can talk to his mates and they all know what regenerative agriculture is a huge start. There's a whole nother set of things that need to happen before people are adopting and accepting the ideologies. So yeah, it's people are holding on to what they know, and it's really important to have facts and figures and science to back up what it is, because without those things, it is seen as hippie, it is seen as fringe. Um, so it's though it's traditional, though it's an ancient way of working with the land, it's also new because it's replacing conventional ag more recently. And certainly a lot of the practices are new, such as the way we can winter crop a multi-species mix. So there's a lot of work to do on that science side. A lot of it is getting done. Um, a difficult point around that is it's hard to quantify something like a biological system, which we can reduce down and say we've lifted our number of earthworms per square meter by this amount, or we've raised our carbon percentage by 1 or 2%. And those things are well and good, and they'll definitely help push the movement, but we can't quantify the relationship between soil organisms, or we can't quantify the effect that our practices now will have in 50 years' time. And we certainly have no numerical value on how much more do I enjoy watching the sheep graze 12 different species than I used to enjoy them graze just Swedes. So there's work on quantifying that to allow that hippie fringe stigma to be diminished, and the acceptance of what I really believe is more a progressive approach to land use to come in. And yeah, there's work getting done where it can be, and hopefully people will just accept that the things that can't be measured are still of value. And I think that's more of like a societal mindset shift, which I hope we're going through as well.
Of course, because we're always limited by how much we can prove statistically to the intellect, but the change comes from a sense beyond that, towards a feeling of perhaps right or wrong, or a more kind of holistic way in which we take into consideration not just the figures, but also the way that it feels on a global scale, on a life form scale.
Just the way that it
But
feels.
that the way that it feels, exactly. So that's easy for some to appreciate. Those people who perhaps have done a lot of time out searching for their own place in this universe, doing some internal work. People who have had mystical experiences out in nature and feels the interconnectedness of it, and the heartbeat and the voice perhaps from the earth, and to see any kind of suffering that might be caused by our actions. However, as you say, there's also a big part of it which does come down to numbers, the relevant research, and you mentioned that there are some sources where people might be able to gather some of this information.
Other sources, yeah, specifically about regenerative agriculture, I'd be going into Pure Advantage have just ran a series called Our Regenerative Future, and initially it was a set of articles which really broadly cover what regenerative agriculture is from perspectives of farmers within different industries, from an economic standpoint, from a business standpoint. And yeah, they cover these different aspects of regenerative agriculture to show how it will influence society for the, of course, the different way of, yeah, the different members of society. And they followed that up with a set of webinars all themed on production, finance. And so that would be my go-to resource lately. Coram Sense is a community, and it's been a beautiful showing of what people can share with each other and how we can harness social media to progress our journeys, especially in the regenerative space. The Coram Sense community is a good one.
So so the first one was Regenerative Future.
Our Regenerative Future. It's by Pure Advantage and the Edmund Hillary Fellowship teamed up to create that.
Okay. And then the second one, what's the spelling of that?
Quorum Sense. Quorum Sense.
Okay.
And so the name for Quorum Sense it was a play on words, one of common sense, this movement of regenerative agriculture. As soon as you've absorbed enough of this information, it truly seems like common sense. Oh, well, of course, planting more species together will end up in a more production, but that's combined with a principle within regenerative agriculture, which is quorum sensing. And if we can think of the soil microbiology for a minute and what's alive down there, a community of bacteria and fungi and nematodes, and these all live in relationship to what's growing above. So if we've got a full paddock of just grass or just wheat or just Swedes, then there's going to be a certain type of bacteria and a select few strains of fungi that can thrive and support that grass. But all the, you know, incredibly extensive array of life forms down there that could be active and could be, you know, harnessing different nutrients from the soil profile and delivering it to plants, they're asleep because what they feed on is the exudates or the things given to them by a turnip or by a sunflower or by a brassica. And if we can plant things together, then we allow this like diverse array of life underneath the soil to all wake up together, and when they are awake together they can thrive, they can support each other, and that is the uh, phenomena named quorum sensing.
And this sounds a lot like a similar idea of permaculture, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So complete parallels between permaculture and regenerative agriculture, just allowing that diversity and mimicking natural ecosystems for human production.
So now that word diversity as well, we've spoken before about not only diversity, about diversification from Swedes to pumpkins, from vegetables to flowers, but also radical diversification. This is a term that you introduced me to, um, which is to radically, right, diversify that use of that land. Would you care to elaborate perhaps on that idea?
Yeah, certainly. So, yeah, diversification can happen within any realm, and it should. Like, if you were to Google it or hear how it's used in the mainstream, it's going to be about racial equality and specifically in the workplace. In terms of land use, yeah, it is traditionally diversifying your income. You might be adding pumpkins as well as flowers. So I've been thinking about diversity for a long time in different ways, and the path to radical diversification was really just thinking, how far can we push this? So pushing beyond diversity within production of the land use into entertainment or into accommodation, into education. And really, all these things can be done in a quorum sense as well, because if we are planting more trees or different crops, it will allow more of a base to bring people onto that land who want to learn or have avenues to educate through the different activities you're using. And the more those trees grow or the more those flowers blossom, the more beautiful the land becomes, opening the door further to accommodation. People might want to come and pitch a tent next to these beautiful blossoms you've provided opportunity for. And entertainment can be created anywhere. So it's just radical diversity is just really thinking, how much can we do? How many enterprises can we stack on top of each other? Will support each other, not take away from each other. And how can they work? Yeah, and in cooperation, not competition.
Right. So for example, on that farm, you have 1,000 acres, and the sheep are only grazing any one paddock at a time. That leaves a lot of other land, perhaps vacant, for use for a night, um, for a live band to play, say, and bring people through just for that one night to see that band, and they clear off in the morning, and then the sheep cruise on over, which otherwise would have just been an empty paddock. Is that right?
Precisely. So, yeah, a way we've embodied this from the start of this journey was the implementation of a disc golf course, which follows the river up and back and covers two paddocks. Uh,
Disc
that
golf.
area,
We're talking like frisbees, like chain nets, and 18
we're
holes of.
talking we're talking frisbees, we're talking 27 holes down by the river, but generally it will be an 18-hole course. Yeah, same pars, same layout as ordinary golf, but thrown discs at a chain basket.
Yeah.
Zach and I have been enthusiasts for a number of years now, and yeah, Zach's a disc golf visionary when it comes to course design. So we've had the course down there for a while, and uh, yeah, it's quite symbolic actually of what we're talking. So implementing that disc golf course meant we were cleaning out the areas which were fairways, which then allowed areas that were thistles and gorse to be walked barefoot. And with such a nice zone so near the water, well, then how about we invite some more people on? Or how do we do that? We have the live music, and thus the birth of Burning Horse Festival. But even how we use those two areas for disc golf and festival, the sheep are just grazing it, only once every couple of months, depending on the season, and that's keeping our fairways short, keeping our dance floors manageable, lush.
Yeah, I'm sure they enjoy the grooves as well, the bands that you have come play. I mean, they're just behind fences all the time. They don't get to go out to the local bar and listen to the rock bands.
Yeah, I like to think the sheep grazing down in the festival zone get to soak in some of that vibration.
So so Burning Horse Festival, is this a an experiment that you guys have tried on the land, a an actual large festival?
Yeah, so started off as an experiment, absolutely. Started off just as a party with some mates and some live music around a fire, and that was cool. So we went bigger and uh, got a bit of a rig in and had a electro party one night, and that went well as well. So we upscaled and we sold tickets and we got a second stage for live music. And in this year, in February, we had our third rendition incorporating a wellness zone and and a regenerative talk space. So yeah, also using Burning Horse as a platform to exhibit diversity. And when you're offering a wellness space, offering an educational space, offering electronic and live music, then the crowds to bring in are going to be a diverse crowd. And when there's a diverse crowd, people can mingle with who they're, you know, there's not a lot of yogis at the local pub, and there's not a lot of farmers at the wandering circus. But at Burning Horse, all three of those parties can come together, and I think that's really important to break down some of the barriers that are, holding us back as a species. There's a lot of judgment from all of those parties towards each other, and of course, circus folk, yogis, and farmers aren't the only people here, but just as examples. So when you can be together and vibe together and dance together, I think you can see one another for something deeper than the skin that you'll see when you're in your own head walking down the street, or even just at the local pub at a festival. That initial thing's dissolved, and you can really talk to a person in a different way. So that's what the experiment of Burning Horse is. It's what do we want to do? How do we want to use the land? How do we want to implement diversity? And how do we want to bring people together for a hell of a good time?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds awesome. I can see it. You got the farmers in the swan dries and the hippies in the harem pants at the same festival. Sounds like a good recipe, man.
Mm,
It sounds like you're doing a lot of good stuff down there. And the Southland of New Zealand is not particularly known uh for its progressive, dare I say it, approach to things. It's been a stable, um, it's been the wallet of New Zealand for a long time, and as that to keep perpetuating that idea, it's stayed quite strong in its tradition. But I think what you're showing is that there are other ways to use what we already have. It doesn't mean sacrificing the old, but transitioning and transforming what we already have to diversify, as you say. And I think getting that message out there is important, and using the right language uh, to be able to get to those different demographics of society who can make the most of this. For example, the farmer who has 1,000 acres uh, has the ability to, if they wanted to. You were mentioning also accommodation. Perhaps they can offer one paddock to be used for. There's a big craze at the moment with tiny homes, and especially um, with economics as we may be going into with this coronavirus situation. We may see more and more people out of work, uh, unable to pay the high rent that is asked, and moving more to a um, an economic model which might include caravans, tents, uh, self-made shelters, tiny homes. But the problem that I've seen is that the people build these tiny homes, and unfortunately, as much land as there is out here, people are reluctant to offer that land to these perceived hippies, um, and people have trouble actually finding somewhere to pitch that yurt or that tiny home. What do you think might be a solution? Is there some kind of model that would allow this to be more approachable for these farmers who perhaps have a paddock that they could diversify in the way of accommodation, allowing these people to be on the land?
Yeah, certainly. I think it needs to be done. There needs to be examples, and they need to be accessible because farmers are innovators for sure, but they're not gonna venture into unknown territories by nature, and there are farmers that will. So yeah, it's just about not being the first one to try something. I think there'll be hippies living in caravans on farms all around. So perhaps finding some examples of that and how they've made that work, putting it together, and then yeah, certainly a platform for connecting those two groups would help a whole lot because I don't think a lot of landowners would have even considered the ideas we're talking about. It's not in their mental sphere. So a platform where these these landowners and these land want to be owners, whether it be someone who wants to park their tiny home or perhaps it's someone who wants to build a garden or plant a food forest or design a mountain bike track and build a log cabin. If there's a way to connect these two that was not about a phone call and having that need of trust, if there was something in between that both could connect through to normalize it, then I can see beautiful symbioses like that happening all around. And
So,
it really is important. Yeah, carry on.
oh no, you go ahead.
Uh, yeah, so I think I don't know the exact percentage. Over 50% certainly of New Zealand's landmass is farmed land, whether that be dairy, sheep and beef, or horticulture. Uh, so that's held by the select few, not massive corporate farms, though they exist. It's still relatively family farmed owned. 1,000 acres is a big farm. You could get smaller, and on that you could have all sorts of enterprise. There's opportunities, whether you've got some barren coastal land that's not so productive, or whether you've got fertile irrigated Canterbury land. All of these properties have opportunities through education or entertainment or a different style of production. And and if we were to promote this, if there were ways to get more people onto that farm rather than just the farmer or just his family or just his workforce that exists already, if we were to create opportunities for a permaculturist to go and park his caravan there and expand that into a thriving garden, then it extends the life sustaining capacity. It enriches that land, and I think rural enrichment should be of the most utmost importance. And it's a term I've never even heard used outside of like a select few thinkers that I like to talk with. And yet I think rural enrichment should be on the tip of everybody's tongue. How are we enriching our rural landscapes? How is this decision going to provide rural enrichment? Because like our cities are coastal and they're they're non-resilient. Is if food stops getting pushed in there, then what happens? Or like if these cities go and people on the movies when some whatever the forcing factor is and people are leaving the city in mass, where are they going? You know, where are these people in the traffic jams leaving the city? Where are they heading to? I don't know, because there's there's not, even on our place where we've really been giving thought, there's not a lot of, there's no facilities for people down there. We've got a lot of space. People could pitch a tent, but that can only last so long, you know. People could eat a lot of lamb, I guess, but we need to think about rail enrichment, and we need to think about lifting our life sustaining capacity.
Yeah, and as we go forward into the future, as you say, the cities appear to be getting big, but also condensing, you know, going up instead of out. And as you say, I mean, even in a pandemic, we see the difference between isolating on a farm and being able to walk amongst the rivers, the mountains, versus isolating in an apartment, and the mental, the possible kind of difficulties that can have mentally and emotionally for people. You see people in Auckland City or New York or Osaka, Japan, they no physical contact. We see even in the last few months, suicides have greatly increased, and the experience of people not even being able to experience the touch of another human plays a vital role. So getting back to the topic at hand, that we need to perhaps start moving to a way to get some people out of cities, because people go to cities because that's where the money is, but perhaps to provide a resource in which there's another option. Because really, unless you're a farmer, unless you're actually oh, here we have Loki and Jake here.
Oh, what are you boys up to?
Yeah, we're just talking to Zebulon right here. Let's just get a little have a look at what we've got going on here.
Little Zebulon. Hey, Zebulon.
Oh, yo.
What up? We can't hear you,
Yeah.
but you're looking awesome.
Just doing a little interview on radical diversification.
Oh,
Yeah.
we'll not interrupt you now.
Yeah.
We are.
I mean, I wouldn't call it interruption. This is all part of it. Yeah, go have a look at my my bell tent down there, and I'll catch up in a bit.
Radical disruption.
Radical disruption.
Not
Yeah.
too radical.
See you, Zebby.
See you, bro.
Cool. Yes. So and that's case in point. So I'm here living in a cabin in the mountains, and on this land we have there's 4 different yurts set up. You know, they've got these outside showers. All of our water is coming from an underground aquifer. We've got a bore, and it's being pumped up. People are all on solar power, and this community here is pretty self-reliant. Vegetable patches and all of that. So there is another way that it can be done, and it's not actually that far out. That it appears when you're living in the city, how to accomplish that, how to accomplish living off the grid. But there are places that support that, and there are people who can educate. And if there were resources, like you say, somewhere you could go perhaps online, like an Airbnb for rural farm owners who want to do something. Perhaps they have the land, but they might not be entertainers, they might not be educators, but they know that they want to help in that way. And I think a lot of the older generation now, the baby boomers, etc., have a lot of resource, but perhaps don't have the skills required to share the knowledge, but they know that they want to help in some way. And so if they were to say, look, I've got this paddock, for example, I've got this foreshore down by the river, I'd really like it to be used for something. It's just kind of sitting there, put it up online, and you can apply. Oh, hey, I'm a I'm a survivalist teacher, or I teach Wim Hof breathing techniques. We want to do cold immersions. Can I bring some of the community down to your farm on the weekend and do this thing? And I think that's a great idea. Do you know any of these potential um, a resource like that which can connect landowners and those that might make use of
Uh,
that land?
I've been thinking of such a platform for quite some time. It doesn't exist in the way that we've discussed it, in the way that has the capacity for diversity. There's sites like Landshare, which is specific for a landowner and a tiny home liver. So Landshares is like an Airbnb, and you can find short or long term um, lease space essentially. But yeah, it's fairly specific for that one role. Lush would be the platform I'd like to bring to the world, which would have that capacity
Is it
to host a variety of options.
Lush? Is that something that you're working on currently?
During lockdown, there was a online startup Aotearoa. If you don't know what a startup weekend is, it's sort of like 48-hour film festival. You have starting on Friday afternoon until and you'll form your groups. You have 2 days to form a business from idea to pitch. So you've got to think through what is the business idea. Developing that, you've got to find out who the stakeholders would be, who the customers would be, and get some real life feedback on would this thing go. So it's a really cool program, startup weekend. But through lockdown, they had a COVID specific one, and I worked on an idea called Lush, which was very much that a Tinder for want to be land entrepreneurs and existing landowners.
Like swipe right if you want this, if you think this is a hot looking paddock.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah. I see that native bush. I could use that for my venture.
Yeah, very good. So that project that you were working on, did that is that in development as we speak?
It's not in development. No, no. I, we didn't. So I had that idea for the Friday, and it didn't. We didn't form a team around the idea, so it sits there waiting. I've thought of how to bring that to the world, and it will come. I think the world needs it. So
All right, so that's currently a project in the mental space that needs a bit of a team behind it. So
mm,
if there was anyone watching who perhaps was inspired by hearing you talk today and wanted to be a part of that, um, would that be something that you would be interested in working on?
yeah, I mean, it would take someone that knows technology because it's a tech software really. Yeah, I've thought quite through how to get farmers on board and how to get these potential rural entrepreneurs on board and how to make that relationship get off to a good start, at least ideologically, but to develop the technology to allow that for sure. If there's
All
techies out
right.
there, I'd like to
Yeah.
talk to you.
Cool. App designers. Yeah, hit them up. Zebulon Horrell down in Gore. All right, mate. Well, it's been an extremely interesting chat here, and I think there's a lot of food for thought for a lot of people around New Zealand, um, and around the world, really. But I do think that New Zealand is placed in a very special position with our low, um, with our our low population, great amount of land, and our disconnection from the rest of the world, it's a real testing ground. It has been used as a testing ground a lot in the past for new technologies and new perspectives. So I think keep doing what you're doing, man.
Cool. Yeah, we're good at what we do. We took the wave of conventional agriculture that was happening around the world, and we nailed it. We're a really productive country, and all the signs are showing that that's what we'll do as we shift towards a more regenerative model with our agriculture. And I do believe it's what we'll do when we shift into a more radically diverse model of our land use as well. So go Aotearoa, and thank you, Cam. It's been a great chat.
Yeah, you too, Zeb. Appreciate your time. We'll link some of these documentation, some of these websites and whatnot. You can learn more about regenerative agriculture and all the rest. And if you'd like to get in touch with us or Zeb in regards to this, you'll find us right here.
I'll
All
send
right,
you
cheers.
through a link to my pitch for Lush as well, if anyone wants a bit more of a concise description of what the idea is with that.
Yeah, cool, man. All right, let's do it. Thanks again, and we'll chat soon. Zeb, have a great night. Enjoy that sun gaze.
Nice. You as well, brother. Peace out.
All right. Peace, bro.